Could these actually be better than these, or these, or these? Yo, what's good guys? This is Nightwing2303 from WearTesters.com. Today we got the performance review on these bad boys right here. This is the Nike Kobe AD NXT 360. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into it. As usual, starting off with the traction. When I first used these things, and I used them right out the gate on the worst court that I play on, the grip was incredible. I've heard varying things from different commenters and things like that that have a pair. I think they had the all black colorway, but either way, they were unsatisfied with the traction as a whole, whereas most of my experiences on the traction have been extremely positive. For almost 2 weeks of playing, I didn't even have to wipe these things at all. However, the traction has not stayed as great as it once was fresh out the box. It seems to be aging quite rapidly, and on top of that, a lot of these little nubs here are actually wearing away quite fast. Some of them were gone after the first day. Others have been just getting worn down more and more each time I play in them. But that's not to say that the traction was bad, it just doesn't have that same bite that it used to. In this clip here, you can actually see that there is a slight slide before stopping. This is not something that I actually felt while I was playing in them. So while these are one of the more reliable traction surfaces that I've used this year so far, and I'm just talking about 2018 releases from January until now, I don't know how long they'll last. And that's the main problem, especially with a shoe that retails for $200. Now the cushion on these guys is actually quite good. It's a very good mixture between Lunar and React. When I first started playing in them, they felt very similarly to these guys right here. This is the midsole from the Kobe 11. This is all Lunar, and then in the heel we have Zoom Air. And when I first wore these things, you had a little bit of squish up front, but still plenty of responsiveness. And then you had a little bit too much squish in the back to where you felt like you were sinking into the back of the shoe. That's exactly how I felt with these guys. The funny thing is that the heel right here is predominantly React, whereas the forefoot is predominantly Lunar. So when I was playing in these and they felt very similarly to these, it's because they're almost identical. Now that super squish that I was getting in the rear of the shoe actually breaks in over time, so it doesn't feel as bad. I personally don't like sinking into the heels. I like a little bit more support, a little bit more stability, which this did provide once they were broken in. They reminded me quite a bit of the Nike LeBron 11s actually, where those had that Lunar carrier with the full-length zoom, and they just felt a little too mushy at first. But like I said, the more that I played in them, the more that I liked them, the more that they broke in. But if you're expecting something vastly different from your traditional Lunar drop-in midsole, you're actually not going to get that. It's very similar. You just have a little bit more plushness with that React overlay on top of the Lunar carrier. And if I were to have to pick between one of these two, I would actually go with this one right here. Once broken in, they just feel a lot more fluid. And this was one of my favorite drop-ins that they've done so far. So for this to kind of surpass this one, I think it's a good thing. Now the materials are Flyknit. Not only are they Flyknit, but it's 360 degrees of Flyknit, so it wraps all the way underneath your foot. Is that a big deal? At least as big of a deal as they've made it to be? No. On top of that, the Flyknit's not like really true Flyknit. It's some sort of like plastic threading. It's very interesting and it works really well. It's just not the Flyknit that I personally like or prefer. This rear section is a little bit closer to what I actually like having on a shoe. If this material here was everywhere, I think that they would have hit it out of the park. However, it's not. It's just in the rear of the shoe. The forefoot section is practically see-through. It reminds me a lot of fishing line, and like fishing line, it's actually really strong despite it being very thin. So while I don't prefer this material setup, it actually didn't give me any real problems on court. And like I said before, it's actually been pretty durable. It's gotten stepped on. I mean, I've gotten like shoes like dragged across it, lateral movements, things like that. And I have not broken through any of the material or any of it rip on me, which I was really surprised with, especially when people step on them and kind of like drag their feet off. That I was expecting some sort of tear or some sort of damage. All we have are some kind of like dirt marks, and that's about it. So again, the material's not really my thing personally, but they've been working really well. So from a performance standpoint, I don't have much to complain about, other than I do wonder how long they will actually last. Now, as far as their fit is concerned, they fit perfectly true to size. Like I said in the material section, this forefoot area is practically see-through, so you could definitely tell if you know your foot's actual size measurement. Mine go right up to the tip of the toe. It's pretty cool to see. It's kind of weird at the same time, but it's cool just so that you're like, hey, I'm a size whatever, these are that size and they fit me perfectly. Now, if you have this shoe and you put them on and you think that they're a little bit too long or whatever, I really suggest that you measure your foot, because that might be the actual problem and not the sneaker. You might just not know what your true size really is. As far as wide footers are concerned, definitely try these on if possible. I don't feel that they're overly narrow, and I do feel that this material will kind of stretch around your foot a little bit, but at the same time, some people with wide feet don't like to really break shoes in, so that's why they normally go up half a size. So again, if you have a wide foot, just go ahead and try them on yourself. I can't really speak for you, but I do wish you the best of luck because these are expensive. As far as lockdown is concerned, that was another surprise, especially with this flimsy looking material. They were actually really good. The midfoot section locked you in perfectly. Having the stiffer Flyknit build actually did help with that. Once you were laced in, you were pretty much locked up tight. And then the rear section of the shoe just feels awesome. It feels like what you would come to expect out of a Kobe model, whether it be the 6, the 8, the 9. Heel lockdown is usually superb in these guys, which they should be being a low top, and that's exactly what you're gonna get out of these. So overall fit, true to size, lockdown, pretty dang awesome. Now the support is something that I do feel they lack just a little bit. The shoe is very much contoured right around your actual foot, which is a very weird feeling. I'm used to wearing something a little bit bulkier for basketball, whether they be a little bit wider, a little bit more sturdy in the back. These guys right here are definitely rounded. So my very first day playing in them, they just felt weird. Like that was like the only thing I could think of. I was like, man, these feel real funny. You get used to it, so just give them some time. What I would recommend is maybe working out or training in these first before going full on into a real game. But again, you get used to it rather quickly, and I think that once you do get used to it, it's one of those weird shoes that is literally an extension of your foot. When you are in here, you feel like you're one with the sneaker. It's like you're wearing like a really beefed up pair of socks with some really good traction on it. The rear heel counter works perfectly. Again, this rear section of the shoe, they've pretty much fine-tuned for Kobe and low tops in general. So if you need that heel containment and support, these guys got you covered. Now, unlike Kobe's in the past, the Shank Plate was on the external portion of that kind of shell of a shoe, whereas these clearly don't have that. What they've done is built it within. I've seen this before on the Air Jordan 2011. I thought it worked great there, and it works just as good here. The difference is that the Air Jordan 2011 was comprised of carbon fiber, which was awesome. These guys, it's plastic. So I would have liked a little bit more premium feeling materials just because the price is at $200, but what they actually provided and offered actually worked well, so I can't complain too much. And then we don't have a traditional outrigger. Like I said, this shoe is very much contoured right around your actual foot. Very strange for someone like me, especially on lateral movements or getting ready to pull up real quick for a shot. That forefoot stability for me is everything, so I like a little bit wider of a base. And what they've done is added this little V cut right here, made out of plastic, once again, just like the Shank Plate, and it provides that stability so this material that is a little bit on the softer side doesn't mush over too much and you roll. Again, I thought that they executed it really well. I still would have liked something a little bit more traditional, but this is not a traditional shoe. This is that kind of like new gen stuff. And for what it's worth, it works. And that pretty much takes care of it for the performance review on the Nike Kobe AD NXT 360, one of the longest names ever. For $200, I think the traction should be a little bit more durable than what it is. But as it is right now, as far as them actually being a playable model, they're 100% playable and they play really well while they last. On top of that, once you get used to the actual feeling of the shoe, they're a lot of fun to play in, and that's probably the most important thing. If they work well and they're fun to play in, like that's a win-win for me. And like I said, that pretty much takes care of it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for all your support. If you want any more information on these, click the link in the description box below. It'll head you over to WearTesters.com where we've got you covered. If you're interested in grabbing a pair, Eastbay has you covered. The link is going to be in the description box as well. If you've been playing in these guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Are they just as fun for you as they have been for me? Has the traction been wearing down as quickly for you as it has been for me as well? All of these things I would love to know, so feel free to share your thoughts down below in the comment section. Thank you guys once again, and until next time guys, have a good one.